Welcome to Conversations with Educators, where we bring educators from across the country to talk about topics like college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, and more. Let's get started. We're going to definitely do some Q&A at the end. And I guess since it is 12:01 and people are hopping on, I'll just go ahead and jump in and introduce myself. My name is Laura Miller. I'm joined with our other test hound friend, Max Gregory. I was thinking we've been with test hound now. We're going into year 9, which feels honestly crazy to me. And I know Max too, but truly love being with you all and bringing you an amazing product and trying to get you as much help starting the new year as we can. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just say officially welcome to our first test hound conversation with educators. And I think this webinar definitely hit a nerve. It's very so far well attended and people are jumping on as we speak. I'm a new test coordinator. Now what? It's definitely that time of year. A lot of you have been graced with the privilege of now doing district test operations for your district. And we're excited just to get some things going for you and maybe some help along the way. Just to quickly go through the agenda, we're going to definitely introduce our guest speaker and then talk about some things surviving your first testing season, 3 things every test coordinator needs to know, and the power of community. And like I said in the beginning, we'll definitely do some Q&A. These 30 minutes go very fast, and I want to get myself out of the way and get you to who you all want to hear anyway, which is our amazing guest speaker, Clint Shuman, who's the Director of Assessment at Round Rock ISD. We're very thankful he has offered to join us, and I am going to stop sharing my screen and then let Clint take it away.
There we go. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes, you're good to go.
So awesome. So I've kind of tailored this from a CTC perspective with some DTC stuff there, but I think it's good for all of us to kind of hear the different pieces. So when I was asked to do it, I was like, I've done the test town for a while, so I had to kind of go back and think about what to do. So as we go through, I say, if you have questions, throw them in the chat, we can answer them at the end. So surviving your first year, it's definitely a lot. Test Town has a lot of great features that make it great to use, but also a lot of pieces to learn. So important things to consider as you're setting up a test and different things. First is, where will you be testing? So my recommendation, get yourself a map. Make sure all those rooms are in Test Town. Test Town does a great job if you import class schedules with rooms that they're there. But if they're not, you really make sure those rooms are in there for your campus. Then also, what staff will you be using to test? This becomes important because Test Town loads teachers if you send them, but it doesn't include your instructional coaches, a lot of different people that don't get included. So make sure those staff that you're going to use, you know who you're going to use, you can get them entered. Great part is if you are missing somebody, you can go back and enter those people later and then jump right back into Test Town. Test Town has a way that if you're in a test and you jump out to rosters, you jump out to classroom, you can click back on there and go right back to the test you were on. Fairly simple, instead of doing all the clicks to get to that test where you were at. Next thing, how will you organize your students? I was a middle school assistant principal and did this for the longest time. And I have learned that middle school, elementary, and high school organize things very differently. So just kind of having a mindset of how you're going to organize students. Are you going to do it by homeroom? Are you going to do it by class period? When it comes to accommodations, do you want all your text-to-speech kids together? Do you want all your speech-to-text kids together? So really knowing those pieces and how you're going to work that and make that operate. So, and then kind of going through that process of organization. Finally, how will you handle your absent kids? Just kind of a process to begin conversation with. How you're going to pull them in there. Marking them absent in Test Town does make planning super easy for makeup day. But as you make that thought process, how are you going to get sheets picked up in time to get them marked to start your planning for the next day or when you're doing that process? So those are the big important things that I kind of, when I was thinking of, as you're thinking of just making a test, that I would really kind of consider and think of. My biggest thing is you're doing anything as a new CTC or a DTC is block off time to work. Each week for a CTC, I would make that time to clear your autopilot alerts, make sure you understand what's coming in, verifying they're there. For CTCs, the DTC spends a lot of time setting those up, and sometimes they get marked wrong. So you might have a text to speech that's actually marked auto text to speech, so it has to get changed so it comes over to you correctly. So those are still important to check. 99% of the time, they're all set up correct, but making sure you catch possibly the ones that are not done. For a DTC, this is something also you have to go through your accommodations and fix the ones that come over that haven't been marked. And that is definitely a weekly job to mark for yourself to get in there and do as a DTC also. Plan for adding new students. Love that test town tells you, so you always can add your new students just in general, but know that new students don't magically appear in test. That is something that you have to do. And I'll hit that again later, but the big piece is giving yourself time and planning ahead of time for those new students that come in and getting them into the right test and all the tests they need to be in and all the different pieces of that. When you go in, have a focus for the day. That's just a great reminder. And then if you can, try to get away where there's no interruptions. I know when I was in Pflugerville, Kelly was great and gave us a place to get away from the people that can find your open door, that can have a key to your door, that have all the things. And it's something we do in Round Rock now, just to give our CTCs a place to go and hide, and then we're also there to help support them. So if this can happen, I would highly encourage it, because I know that work on campus is much harder when people know how to find you. I even had a closet to hide in, and they still knew where the closet was and still found me to bug me. So just know those pieces. I will say my favorite thing as a CTC and as a DTC is Z-Star demo is probably my favorite thing, because I can go in there and explore the features and not worry about messing up anybody's test or anything. If I have a CTC call me and ask because something's not working, I go and set the same test up that they're working on in Z-Star demo. It works very well for me to do that. You can't break it. I've learned that you can click and do all the things, and best part in demo is you can't break it. And if you do, we'll talk about it in a minute, you can just reset the whole thing. This is one of those places when I was on a campus that I would try one way of setting things up and be like, this isn't working. So I'd go to Z-Star demo and do another process just to try an alternate way to get those kids organized that's maybe worked better for me. Finally, resets. Mistakes happen. The reset all button is a great feature because you can just clear it all out. For the first time, I didn't realize the reset button was there. I was having to go to all the kids and delete all the kids and clear rooms. Reset all resets your whole test, which makes life very easy. In my Z-Star demo, after I get through helping somebody, if they need something else, we'll clear it so I can start back over and process within that same process. Biggest reminder for a CTC and for DTCs to remind their teachers is that tests don't update themselves. And we talk about all the information that flows into test hounds, the accommodations, the students, the schedules. But once a test is created, we have to remind those CTCs that they have to bring all that stuff in. You have to approve the new students and you have to approve your autopilots, but there's also the process of once in that room, you have to go in and add those kids. So if a kid gets a new accommodation, say text to speech, and you have them in a regular room, but you want them in a text to speech room, you've got to move the kid over to that text to speech room. It's very important to do that. Also, you can, when a kid starts, you can add a kid at the test level. So you go into the test, you find the kid, or add students, or however you have been adding, and you can put them in the test. One way that seems to be easier, so you're not worried about adding people you don't want, is when you add a student, you can click on their profile and add a test directly to a student. So you can drop that kid right where you want them ahead of time and do it student by student as you add new students to make sure you're catching all your kids and get them in a room. Mock testing format, I would encourage all CTCs to have a day where they treat some test on campus like a mock test, because it gives you a chance to work out all the bugs before the state testing piece happens. So you can make sure it all works. It gives you a practice setting up test towns, so you're already having to do it one time, and then you can go make your changes. And it just makes that testing day run much smoother. I knew if we didn't do a mock test, I was worried were kids missed, were kids in the right place. Even if you do a mock test, go back to a reminder, after the mock test, you do need to remember to add any new students when you get to that testing day. The great part is if your mock test works great, we'll talk about it here. There's a copy to feature. You can copy that test over to where you're working at. Other great benefit of a mock test, you get the teachers seeing that paperwork that they're going to use. So if you want to process to that paperwork, teachers get to see it, they get to understand it, they get to ask questions, an environment that's not quite as stressful for everybody else. So it kind of makes it a whole lot easier for them to understand what you're going to ask for on the actual testing day. My final recommendation for anybody is if you need help, send a question into TestTown. They are great. If you can't figure it out, getting help. I know there's also TestTown tune-ups where they have people available, so you can be online, you can share screen, they can see what you have and work through. And finally, they have a video library that I've used to share with people and watch myself. So haven't been to a tune-up yet, but I know they've talked about them. And anytime you have a chance to have somebody else with you to help you talk through a problem or an issue, it's got to be a valuable time. So three things every new test coordinator needs to know. So this was a hard one to figure out because I think there's a lot to it. But the big thing is, if your campus loads by schedule and course, you actually can add kids to a room by their homeroom or a class period. It makes it, for elementary, I learned they do a lot of their testing in homeroom. So we actually go to the add to feature to add to a test room, and add by homeroom. And literally you select all the rooms you want and drops all the kids directly into that classroom. So you're not clicking, trying to find where to put them, going one by one. If this isn't done in your district, I think it's one of those I would encourage people to do, is that schedule piece. Also, if you're doing by period and you're going to test certain classes in a period, you can go click those kids and add them to that room by their class period. The other feature we use a lot here is, I know everybody has these above grade level testers, which cause us to try to figure out where to do them. We add and remove by course. So we've got to where 8th grade's kind of the prime example. For 8th grade, we add our kids in by those that are in 8th grade math, or all our 8th graders, and we remove them if they're in algebra, and we move them up to their algebra course from that point. And that way we make sure we don't miss any of our 8th graders, but we know we get all the algebra kids out. So that's a very beneficial that you can do it that way. And again, copy to, like I said earlier, this feature allows you to create a test. And once that test is created and it works for you, you can do a copy to feature. So even setting up STAR where we have 3 or 4 different windows, if you're doing like 8th grade, you can take what you did for math and copy it to reading, copy it to science, where you're not doing near as much work back to back and doing it over and over. But one piece to know, if your testing room has somebody in it, it is not going to work. It's going to have some problems. Also, sometimes TestTown glitches, and I would always make sure it copied correctly. The biggest thing I've noticed is there's not the number in the room doesn't match, which means they didn't copy over. So you do a quick reset, the copy to the next time works. I haven't figured out what caused it, if it's on our end or a TestTown glitch, but that is kind of that piece. But the reminder of a copy to, whatever date you created your first room, when you copy it, you're gonna have to add the new students from that time. So always remember that just because you do a copy to, the new kids don't magically pop over and go over there for you. Reports is the final piece. There are a ton of reports that TestTown offers that I would encourage you to use. You can go into Tide and turn on accommodations. You can turn on your non-embedded supports that way. We've used it already to create rosters for our teachers in Tide, so our new teachers can start seeing their CRS and their scores for their kids. For those that were in the meeting yesterday, we did find out if you create a roster and take out the email address, that'll be the roster that you would use to print test tickets that the teachers don't see. So if you want a teacher to see it, you need the email address. If you don't want them to see it, take out that email address, and it'll make the rosters for printing test tickets that don't go into your CRS. Material control forms we use all the time. That is where we do our seating chart and all the pieces. Attendance is there. TestTown has a wall roster function. Sometimes we go in and manipulate it some to make it fit what we need, but it is there. Master accommodations. If you reach out to me later, another district shared with us a great spreadsheet to clean up master accommodations so we can see it in a different way. But this is a great list to see all the accommodations you have. The above grade level testing makes things very nice because you get the kids in the right test. And based on their grade level, Test Town knows that they're above grade level, so it creates that report directly for you to go in there, turn on. Also turn on EOC test. Once the kids are in a test, you can run the report. So as I've kind of talked about, I think another piece to remember is reports are only done if kids are in test. So you can't just make this assumption that I'm going to run an EOC test report and it's going to give me all of them. They need to be in the test first and then they're there. So same for that above grade level. You've got to put them in the correct test to get the report to work correctly. Because again, Test Town's only as smart as what we tell it. So it kind of needs that piece to make sure we're getting it done correctly. And finally, the power of community. Take the time at training that your DTC does to get to know your other CTCs. I would encourage you to create a Google chat to share and ask your questions. Finally, be okay asking the question, even if you think it's silly. Some of the questions were like, oh, I should know that. But if you don't ask, you can get the help. DTCs, I would say search out other districts that can help you. And finally, reach out to Test Town because they also might be able to give you a DTC to kind of help think through the process that can help you get through that piece of it. And finally, I guess, as I say, connect, the other way to connect is through your testing organizations. I was told that Test Town has a number of states, so I tried to find all the organizations that I know that are around on a quick search. For all those in Texas, I highly encourage you to be part of TSNAP. Has a great interface to see what's going on the online community. The Texas Assessment Conference has been invaluable. We've learned many tricks there from them. So I would highly encourage that for all the Texas friends. Obviously, I can't speak to the other ones. I know they're there, but I would encourage you to be part of that organization. And with that, I think we're to questions. I know I talked fast, but with 30 minutes, I wanted to get what we could get in there.
Hey, Clint, there was a question a little bit earlier just about the above grade level testing.
Yes.
And if you can go into a little bit more about how, I guess, you handle the above grade testers and their room assignments.
Yeah, so above grade testers, we use a program called Scribe, and I've made kind of an outline for my campuses. So the hardest example is 7th grade. For 7th grade, you have kids that have to come out because they're going above grade level. So I add all of my 7th grade. By doing that, I make sure I don't miss any 7th grader. From there, I would remove my 7th graders that are going into 8th grade and taking the 8th grade test or algebra. But I also have to go and add in my 6th graders that are in the advanced math class. So for us, it becomes an add and remove process. We add all our 7th graders, then we remove algebra and 8th grade kids by course, and then we add 6th graders back in by course. And we follow a similar process throughout. 3rd grade for us, we don't have to adjust at all. 4th graders, we add all our 4th graders and then remove our above grade 4th graders. 5th grade, we add all our 5th graders, we remove our above graders to go to 6th grade, and then we add in our 4th graders that test. And we do that in kind of that order just to make sure by course number, we're not taking anybody else out. And then we follow the same process. 6th grade, we pull out the above grade level testers, they go to 8th grade. I talked about 7th grade, and then 8th grade's that same concept. We take out a group of kids that are doing algebra, but we add by course the 7th graders going there. But again, my encouragement is always to add by grade level first, because then you don't miss a kid. If you add by course, you might miss a kid accidentally, not on purpose, but maybe they don't have a schedule right. Maybe there's something there. And that way all those kids are there.
So another question, Clint, that came up, and I may know the answer, but I'll let you do it. So when you talk about the wall roster report, is that the master schedule that you run from Test Town that
Yes.
has the kids with the columns for every test that they're taking that week?
It does.
Okay.
Yes. And that, I say we take that, or some people, I used to take it, put it up for everybody to see by the day, and so everybody could see where they were.
Perfect.
Or the biggest part I had for that would make a copy for the office, so the office knew where everybody was each day also.
Okay. I'm kind of scrolling through. So there are some questions here. I'll go ahead and read them out. Clint, if you want to jump in, you can. I think some of them I may be able to answer. So there was one about Test Town syncing with Skyward. And so what I'll say kind of with that is the intent of Test Town is we get student teacher schedule and Texas demographic information nightly from your SIS. So yes, it does sync with your SIS. We get the data. We don't necessarily push it back, but we do get that information on a nightly basis. So when Clint was talking about knowing who's on your school, the whole point is, and Clint, you can jump in, but I always use this. I was a high school testing coordinator as well, is trying not to have a line of kids outside the library. That was my home base on test day. So maybe you only have to worry about those kids that just showed up that day.
Yeah, and with the SIS for us, it did take me time to get the course schedule piece figured out. For DTCs that are attaching or sending stuff over, the piece we found out is we now start is the order of where you have your campus, your course code, and your state code. And by switching, we were sending it backwards and we switched and it's made it much cleaner on making sure, like when we pull by algebra, that the right kids get pulled. So that was another piece that it kind of took time to make sure we got it sent right. So
Let's see. Questions about will the presentation be posted? Laura, I know we'll post a copy of the webinar. Is the presentation going to be there as well?
Yes, we'll definitely make
Okay.
sure that links get shared out for the presentation and the webinar itself. I'm again loving all these questions. Clint, one came through about how a strategy to train new campus test coordinators. Just besides, I'm looking at them just the recorded trainings, but is there personal training? What is your strategy for new campus coordinators training?
so this year we're kind of changing it up a little bit again. We are having all our new ones come 2 weeks early, and we're gonna just do a basic, this is test hound. These are what all the buttons mean, play with the buttons, look at the buttons, and just discuss how information gets there and do a little bit. When we do our training 2 weeks later, we talk with all our CTCs. Our team is kind of a mindset of just doing just to do doesn't make sense, but having a purpose behind it. So we will bring them in. We're going to interim test coming up. So we will walk them through with the interim test, the process of adding for a couple tests, adding all the kids. And we're going to use Math 7 and Math 4 because those are the two where kids come in and out to really help them understand that piece. And so we're going to create the test. We're going to go into the test. We're going to go through all the process of adding kids, taking kids out, getting kids to rooms, and then giving them hopefully a little bit of time to work if they can. But the next week, we actually will then hold a time for them to come work with us if they have any questions. But I'm of the mindset that if you actually get to do the work for a purpose, it sits with you better than just doing to do.
Hey, Max, let me ask you a question. It looks like just information on when our tune-ups will be starting, when those are going to be posted. Do you have any information about that? Just I'm seeing a lot, which is good, a lot of very detailed questions about specific things. And we definitely, our goal is to make sure all these questions get answered specifically for your districts too. This time just gets really short. So I guess we could just start, Max, any information on tune-ups coming up?
Yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the link from our knowledge base. I'm going to put it in the chat real quick, make sure I've got everybody in there. And so you can grab this. So what we try and do is our webinars have specific content that we're trying to cover. And then the tune-ups are really office hours that you can hop into. But this link will take you to our knowledge base where you can go ahead and register for those sessions. And I apologize, like I'm looking at my other screen. So when I look off, I promise I'm actually paying attention. But it looks like, so this is the 28th. We have an autopilot refresh. That was this morning. So we've got some information on performance tracker coming up for our school testing coordinators. There's kind of a beginning of the year review that we have scheduled next week. It looks like, or the week after, setting up a local test configuration. There's quite a few things that we have on the books. We do go ahead and try and keep that kind of populated throughout the year. So right now we've got it through October 16th. And then our team, what we do is we'll look at questions we've been asked, tickets that are coming in, trainings that we've done, kind of the time of year we're at, and we'll go ahead and continue kind of building out that webinar schedule. But tune-ups, it looks like for the most part are scheduled Monday, Friday. So between Monday 2 to 2:30, Friday 9 to 9:30. And so that's really just an open time. If you have a question, pop in. Let us know. If there are a bunch of people in there, we will do our best to work through everybody that's in there. Um, but the nice thing is, if you have a question, I guarantee you there's somebody else that has that same question, so we can go ahead and answer it. And we may knock out 10 people's questions with that one. So please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know.
Okay, I'm gonna just, if it's okay, kind of just take it from here. We want to value your time. Again, the 30 minutes goes fast. We've already had ideas of even maybe doing a session 2 of this if Clint is willing here in a couple of months as things are rocking and rolling. But just a couple of things from me. Don't ignore your pop-ups in Test Town. I am really bad about just going, oh, I need to keep going and click through. But we are providing some really vital information to things that are changing and adapting, especially now things are pushing out. So I got to go visit Region 12, yes, last week, and everybody's like, we just click through. I'm like, quit clicking through your pop-ups. Don't ignore them. They're important. Also, you've seen responses from our team, Craig, Lori, Carrie, Roz. We are all here to truly make things the best they can be for you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. That's what we've all been in your shoes, whether it be at the campus or district level, and that is truly what we're here to do. I want to just share a couple other things, if that's okay. If you happen to be on this webinar and you don't have Test Town, please reach out to one of us and they can get you to me, so that we can figure out how to get you on board. This is our goal, to make things easier for you so that you can do these things, focus on more time with your students, keep things in one place. Some of us might can remember before Test Town existed what it was like, and it was not fun. It was a lot of Post-its and lists and spreadsheets, and I just couldn't go back. I know that for sure. So if you don't have the system yet, make sure you reach out to me or one of us. We'll figure out how to get you set up. And also, just because I want to make sure our whole company's goal is to make things easier with some of these other projects, products to pathways, evaluation. I will share, if you like these conversations with educators, and if you have anything to do with tracking CCMR, we have another webinar coming up with that next month. And I think I can even be smart enough, sometimes that's a question, right, to copy the link to that in the chat, so that if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, it's just going to be something else that we're providing. Again, we really want these to be services for you, not just with our products, but also with just community and help. So Clint, we cannot thank you enough for your time. We appreciate you and all that you do and your expertise, and everyone that was on the webinar was able to join us. We're all in this together. We're all here to help you. So please, if additional questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out. And we will get this posted on our website and blast it out to everyone that attended, and probably even more people that didn't attend, just so that everybody has access to it. I'm going to pause. Are there any other questions?
So there's one that kind of popped up in Clint. It's more for you, and I know we're right at time, but so everyone's asking about when you mentioned cleaning up the master accommodation spreadsheet. What is that? What do you use?
So we actually take it from y'all's Excel sheet, which is nice, and move it to a Google sheet, which makes it a little bit cleaner. It takes out all those unnecessary blanks and all the columns, because there's about 30 columns none of us really use. But the one time you do use it, you need to make sure you have it. So yeah, so I can't remember we went to a training last year and picked that up, because it was just a lot for our. Now the only downfall is you guys give you can see all courses. We have to break it down into 4 different tabs for each test that happens. So that is, it just kind of takes and makes it look a little bit prettier for everybody looking through the stuff.
Awesome. Well, hopefully, Clint, that's something we can help you with. We have in our backlog right now where we're going to try and do some work on that master accommodation report. So maybe it's a little bit cleaner. So maybe it'll make you putting into a Google sheet a little bit easier. Maybe we can take one thing off your plate. if we can.
That'd be great. And I don't mind later sharing with you guys what it looks like that's making it easier for us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, well, it is officially 12:31 Central Standard Time. So we want to make sure you all are able to have some lunch, right? Before you go to your next meeting or have your next project that I'm sure is coming your way. Thank you so much for spending time again with us today. And thank you, Clint. We will make sure, again, just saying one more time, this will get shared out the best way we can to everyone that attended, the PowerPoint, and of course, the actual webinar itself. And we are here to help you. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. And thank you for spending some time with us today.
Yep. Have a wonderful day.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us. If you want to learn more about college and career readiness, graduation tracking, teacher growth, assessment coordination, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Until next time.